Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Tribute to Our Heroes. Our next guest is actually somebody off of our board of directors. He is an extremely intelligent man that's well versed in the technological space. He has certificates from UC Berkeley for AI and artificial intelligence. So he definitely knows a lot, and he has ideas on how to hopefully bridge the technological space and the evolving technological space to kind of help out the veteran community. And of course, that's why he sits at our board of directors, because he believes in getting involved directly, not just thinking about it or talking about it. He actually is serving in the Army Reserve and is currently still serving. I have heard about him, but I had never actually met him up until this point. But he was a joy to meet with, a joy to talk to, and it was really nice to get to know him and to kind of see what he thought about AI and how it could integrate with us and any other nonprofits and just kind of where it's going. So I'd like to introduce Dr. Kyle Brooks. Dr. Kyle Brooks, thank you so much for finally meeting with me. It took a little time to get this all scheduled, but I appreciate you taking the time to finally meet here in person with me. So thank you for that.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Yeah. So I wanted to just give you the floor for a second to introduce yourself to the audience, kind of let them know who you are in relation to us at Soldiers Angels, and just kind of, everything that, just a little introduction about yourself, however you see fit.
Well, Kyle Brooks. I'm originally from the great state of California, but I've lived in Georgia for the past almost 15 years. Met my wife, Christina, and moved out here. I like to think about my life in terms of service in different capacities. So I've been in the Army Reserve since 2009. I head up strategic partnerships for a software company, teach business at the university level. And then for the past 6 years, I've had the awesome privilege of being associated with Soldiers Angels, first being on the advisory council, and now being on the board of directors.
And if I'm not mistaken, you joined our board of directors in 2019, correct?
I believe so. Yeah, it's been feels like yesterday, but it's been a little while. So
I was gonna say, time flies. I remember 2019, like it was just here. So hard to believe we're halfway through this decade.
Right.
At the moment right now, you are currently in the Army Reserve still. Is that correct?
I am. Ignore the beard. It does come off every month, but it grows really quickly, so I can keep it in between.
I was like, you have a very thick, dense beard. It's a nice beard. I'm actually kind of jealous. I'm not gonna lie. I'm sure you get that a lot. Does it feel like almost a little sad to shave it off every time you have to go back?
It does. So I actually have to shave it off tomorrow. But the timing of this is great because I much prefer my face with the beard. I feel naked without it. So
yeah, right. I remember when I first separated, that was like the first thing I did. I don't think I've shaved since then, or I've always trimmed it. I've never fully shaved it again since then. So I totally know what you mean. What made you want to join the Army in the first place?
A lot of people have similar stories, I think, but I was in school when I saw the towers fall, and a little bit younger, but growing up, that kind of shaped my life. And I saw the carnage on the screens. And then more importantly, I saw brave men and women stand up and answer the call to go do something. So, disaster, tragedy, it's unfortunate that sometimes it seems that today's world doesn't remember it, not because, it's painful, but the memory there stirred so many people to action. And that's why I joined. I wanted to help people. I wanted to be there and didn't really want to go wage war on somebody. I want to help those people that were out there just doing what they were called to do, which was my first job in the Army. I signed up as a medic, and I loved it. It was great.
So that was enlisted, right?
I was, yep.
Oh, okay. So you went from low enlisted to officer now, correct?
Yeah, so I enlisted right after high school as an E1. Was able to bring a friend along with me to basic training. So I got that E2 pretty quickly. So I got to wear at least something on my chest. Mm-hmm. And then enlisted for about 10 years. And then for the past, going on 7 years now, I've been commissioned.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for your service. I mean, you're still serving. And I mean, even on your off time, you're here working with us, trying to help us out. So you're giving back to people who gave back. So you really are, you talk your talk, you walk your walk. So I appreciate you for that. And I'm sure everybody else here does as well. When you first enlisted, were you always reserves or were you active duty?
Been reserve the whole time.
Oh, okay, gotcha. How has your reserve experience been, just in case for anybody maybe considering doing that?
Yeah, so I would say it's been interesting because a lot of times you look at it from the civilian side of it, and people are like, what's the reserve? What's National Guard? Are you like a weekend warrior? Like, what does that mean? And I didn't really know what it meant going into it. I just knew that, I had my own personal goals of what I wanted to do with my family, my career, and they didn't really align with full-time service at the time. I wanted to go to
Mhm.
school at the same time. I wanted to build a career at the same time. And so when I talked to an Army Reserve recruiter about it, the Army Reserve is such a phenomenal program, National Guard as well. But the Army, being the largest branch, has a lot of opportunities for part-time service. So I always tell people, yeah, it's part-time service, but it is a full-time commitment.
Mm.
You are
Fair way to put it.
it
Yeah.
could be called up to duty. So I've loved it ever since I joined, and I've got to serve in numerous capacities over the years that have really let me interact with my peers from other branches, my peers from
Mhm.
other governments, some allied services, and then just people that I've worked with that are active duty or transitioning. It's a great community.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, it makes total sense. I know, I mean, it is definitely another option to fit other people's lifestyles. Some people just want to go all in, all the way from the very beginning. Some people they still got responsibilities or things to do here at home. And it is always a good, versatile option, I would like to say. Just out of curiosity, is there any specific reason you chose the Army Reserve versus Navy or Air Force or anything like that?
Yeah, I think the number of programs that are available in the Army, being the largest branch, and then
Mhm.
having land as our
Mhm.
primary domain, there's so many different things we can do. People think of Army, they just think of land, but there's actually air.
Mhm.
We have helicopter pilots, we have fixed wing pilots, and
Yeah.
then we have engineers that are on boats. So we're all over the place. We have people working in cyber fields that are doing stuff in space. We've sent astronauts to space, which is
Mhm.
really cool. Hearing that, you think of Army, you think about combat boots and backpacks, but there's so much more to it. And
Gotcha.
that's the beauty of the reserve is, I've always had a special pride in maybe putting on a suit and tie on Monday, but then going and changing into my dress uniform for a special event on a weekend, or
Mhm.
a dining out or dining in, and then having my duty uniform on the weekends just with my soldiers. There's something really
Mhm.
cool and unique to me about tracing back to the roots of our country. They weren't
Right.
the reserve, they were the National Guard, so I have to give them that. But
Mhm.
having the Minutemen stand up and leave their jobs to go answer the call to duty, and then when their duty was done, go back to their jobs.
Yep.
That was always really interesting to me.
At what point, and I know you said you joined our board of directors in 2019. When did you first hear about us, or when did you first come aware of us as an organization that eventually led you to become part of our board of directors?
Yeah, so it was probably close to a decade ago. And I remember I was one of the NCOs in a unit that I was working with. Some of our soldiers had just come back from a deployment, and they had received some care packages and some goodies. I think they'd even been featured in one of the materials for a group that had been overseas.
Mhm.
And they shared about what Soldiers Angels had done for them while they were deployed. And that really stuck with me. Having an organization that really understands the importance of service members knowing they're valued and loved when they're far from home. Yes, a lot of our service members have families and connections with loved ones, but 10 years ago, we didn't have, live, the way we're meeting right now wasn't as common. It wasn't as
Mhm.
reliable. It wasn't as consistent, especially the areas that we had people at. So really hearing what Soldiers Angels was doing around the world was so interesting to me. And then, as a company commander, I was able to help ensure that my reserve soldiers had Girl Scout cookies when we went
Mhm.
to annual training, and had support and understood the programs that were available. And I could kind of call ahead when I knew my guys were going overseas and get their name added to a list to
Mhm.
get some love while they were away. So awesome organization that is kind of woven through my Army Reserve career.
Oh, that's awesome to hear. Yeah, I love hearing when people have said like I received support from you guys directly. And sometimes it's just a care package box full of Girl Scout cookies or whatever it is, and they're just like, oh, I just remember how good it was to have it in those moments where there's just nothing else to eat, and so it always makes me feel good. It always makes me happy knowing that even a simple care package with just cookies, home baked goods, socks, whatever, it can just change somebody's day that's out there downfield, downrange, just
Absolutely.
going through it all. So yeah. How is how has your experience been since you've been, on our board of directors with us?
It's been awesome. When I joined the board, I knew kind of going into it that I didn't just want to show up to meetings, which is easy to do on a board, and I
Mhm.
love all of our board members. We just came back from an amazing event in DC, 2 weeks ago now. We got to go
Mhm.
do the food distribution there. All of our board members come from a really great background, and we try to pull people from different backgrounds so they can add value in unique ways. But I knew going in that I didn't just want to be, sitting in a room once a quarter, once a year. I wanted to actually, as best as I could, be involved.
Mhm.
And so that's what I've tried to do in my role with, being a board member first and then being the secretary for the board the past few years.
Mhm.
Really trying to make sure that I'm involved in the committees I can add value to, attending the events that I can, and then working, with the phenomenal leadership, Amy and team. Amy is the face everybody sees when you're looking at the news, but there's so many more amazing people behind the scenes that are doing so much with a
Mhm.
small, scrappy team, which is really exciting to be a part of.
Oh yeah. No, we're definitely small but mighty. I will say that we take on a lot, and it's not just me or just Amy. It really is everybody pulling their own weight here, and we
Absolutely.
all do what we can with what we got for sure. Um, so I know you've been in the Army Reserve for a long time now, right after 2001. What have you done, I guess, outside of your Army Reserve time? Like what's your field, your profession outside of the military?
Yeah, so I work in SaaS, so software and technology. Work for a global company, and I head up our strategic partnerships. So basically, what I get to do is I joke with others that I get to see all the cool stuff that everyone else is doing. And
Mhm.
then because we're a large company, we often, get asked to be a part of things other people are doing. We're not usually having to go chase down people to ask if we can be a part of it. People are
Mhm.
usually coming to us and saying, hey, do you want to work with us? Are you interested in doing what we're doing? And
Yeah.
then I also teach part time. So I have
Cool.
my doctorate in business strategy and innovation, and really enjoy mentoring and developing the next generation of business leaders, nonprofit leaders, helping them
Mhm.
find their passion, their goals in undergrad, and then now the MBA level as well.
And just a question I thought of here in the moment that I guess I probably meant to write down and I just forgot, but I'm going to ask you now. How do you think your time in the military has shaped your professional life outside of the military and vice versa? Do you feel like one complements the other in certain aspects?
Yeah, so that's a unique one because we joke about it sometimes as reservists that we're really good at like splitting our brain into
Mhm.
uniform and not in uniform, and I'll call that kind of our secret edge over some of our active duty brothers and sisters that you know we maintain a career and things outside of the military, but also have to equally maintain our military career. Uh,
Mhm.
and that's not necessarily better than anyone that devotes all their time and energy to the active duty profession, but it kind of makes us think a little differently. So, when you're assigned to a unit that has a specific mission that maybe aligns with what you do in the private
Mhm.
sector, you can bring some of those skills and expertise into what we do in the military. And when it's nothing like it, sometimes it's a nice little reprieve from sitting in a cubicle or driving a truck or whatever you're doing. You get to go do something different in uniform. So for me, the military side of it taught me a lot of structure. It taught me a
Mhm.
lot of time management and then learning how to work through challenges that maybe might not present themselves in the same way in
Mhm.
the private sector. And then in the private sector, I've learned how to work with a very diverse set of people with backgrounds and views and outspoken opinions that being outspoken isn't always welcome in the military.
Very
So
true.
learning how to work with people that will adamantly share their view with me. I learned, how to work with people in the military setting and make it not so much yes sir, no sir, but
Mhm.
actually treat people like humans and have a conversation around what they need and when they're saying something, what they mean and who they are instead of, what you're seeing in front of you.
Yeah. Well, that is I've never actually thought about that, but you've definitely grown professionally in both sides of the coin, and you get to see both sides because I feel like there's always a huge problem when people from the military have to go to the civilian side and they
Yeah.
just don't know that the sort of communication or kind of that expectations of what comes with communicating to your leadership on a civilian side. So, do you
It's
think
hard.
I mean, do you think that have you seen that before in your own line of work?
I have.
Yeah.
So we we love working with veterans in the areas that I work and volunteer and teach and all that. But it's definitely a different type of employee. You're getting a veteran. Usually what you're getting when you get a veteran, and sometimes that's good and bad. Sometimes it's making sure that new employee that maybe just separated from service has clear expectations for their job, because they're used to every day what they need. And sometimes it's maybe as simple as wardrobe, that, hey buddy, that tie doesn't match your pocket square, but that's okay because they're used to wearing uniform every day. And so some of those kind of things are unique. At harder workers and people that are more passionate about something when they're on it than our veterans. And that's the beauty of, bringing in people that have committed literally a blank check to service. And sometimes that check's been cashed in more ways than, we know. Sometimes they come back with unseen injuries or wounds from their time in service, but then they come into the workplace with sometimes decades of experience, arguably compressed into 5 to 8 years. And now they can lead at a much higher level because they were in a pressure cooker.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I bet anytime there's a veteran involved, they probably love to call you first guy, like, hey, get Kyle over here real quick. Maybe he can help work with them a little bit more.
Translator. Yeah, here you go. This is what they mean. No.
You're like, relax, I got it. That's awesome. Given your experience in obviously military, and then of course also you being so in depth in technology on your civilian side, I'm sure you have, and of course strategic planning as well. So, you have your mindset to see things in a certain way. I was wondering, a lot of nonprofits face challenges with limited resources and sometimes even digital adoption. How do you think leaders like you from the tech world can help bridge that gap between meaningful impact and then in the nonprofit space?
Yeah, so that's always a really fun question to answer, because a lot of times, we separate in our minds nonprofit and for-profit, and like people put a barrier up and they're like, no, they're not the same thing. They can't work the same way. Right and wrong, right? So there's things that definitely translate back and forth, but there's things that are unique angles and approaches to how we do things. I think technology, our industry, SaaS, you think about a few years ago, massive layoffs, Amazon and Facebook and other big companies that, and smaller ones, right, that went through a dynamic shift with changing how we work, going remote, and now changing how we work with the introduction to AI and a lot of different things. I love the technology sector because we're really forced to learn how to use new things quickly, whether that's processes or technology, to not only just work with it, but then create something that a consumer, an end user, someone on the other side of the screen is going to want to buy and want to use consistently. And that blends really well with our mission at Soldiers Angels, creating programs, understanding what's available to us, staying in tune with what the needs are of different generations of service members and veterans, knowing what they need at the time, understanding the markets. A lot of, some money doesn't go as far in some places as others. And so then understanding the unique needs of the people you're supporting, I think working in a background in tech really equips people to grasp that a little bit better.
Yeah, no, it makes total sense. And how do you see technology, I guess, being used in a way to empower nonprofits to kind of, scale their mission and kind of make that community outreach?
It's exciting, right? So I recently did some exec ed with UC Berkeley around AI and the capabilities and different types of AI. And we could talk about AI forever because I love talking about it. But, very simply put, the ability for something else to come in and make our lives easier in a place with a smaller workforce, smaller budget, when we're trying to use every single cent towards the mission instead of, a big building and fancy things, and having an additional partner is what I think of AI as, there to help us with everything we need, is so useful. And so just thinking about, some recent transitions we've done with Soldiers Angels, moving our donor platform recently, using some new marketing initiatives, software and AI have really helped us, I think, be more effective at what we do. write copy for marketing materials, have a person to bounce an idea off of. There's so many different uses that will be really helpful that I'm excited to watch, but it's also probably scary for some people because it's new. And we want to make sure that we have good guardrails that we put around it to make sure that we follow the right processes and can create an environment where, our donors and the service members and veterans that are using our services trust what we're doing and how we're doing it.
No, actually, on that note, because I did see that you have a license in artificial intelligence, business strategies, and applications from UC Berkeley, correct? I think you mentioned that already. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I did actually want to ask you, AI is such a lot of people feel very weird about it. Some people are all about it, and it's kind of such a new thing, and I think everybody feels just how impactful it can be. And I think that's why people are either scared of it or they're either all for it because and I think it's going to be a big adjustment before it kind of, the turbulence of these new waters kind of settles down a little bit.
Yeah.
But, because of so much looming change coming from AI and how it could be used in the workforce. I mean, do you share or have any kind of concerns about maybe any of the ethical applications that, it can be used for, like can people use it deceptively or anything like that? What are your thoughts on it?
Yeah. Well, yeah, AI is very powerful, right? But like any other tool that we use, when you think of it like a tool, we're responsible for it. So, biggest concerns are around fairness and trust. We want to build systems that are making decisions about people's lives with what we do in a really meaningful and impactful way. We want to reflect human values. And so that's where I think a lot of people get scared because they think AI is going to replace them. I don't really think that's going to be the case, at least not anytime in the near future. I think it's going to make us better. I think it's going to create more ability for us to do things than we could have done by ourselves. Even in my classroom, when I'm working with students, I don't encourage them not to use AI. Yes, I'm looking at what they write and making sure that it's not fully plagiarized. But I understand that there's unique value with AI that can help us edit, help us proofread, help us understand what we're doing a little bit better. So I would tell people that are concerned about it, learn about it. And if you use it at your organization or you're using it in your personal life, try to find one or two small areas that it can make easier. Maybe it's meal planning. Maybe it's prepping your schedule or combining things. I actually help create talk tracks for meetings using AI so that I can go understand and stay consistent with what I'm discussing.
Yeah. When it comes to AI, because I mean, obviously AI is touching so many different sides of like all these industries. It really is advancing and helping a lot of industries go through, especially in the realm of communication. Which I guess do you think which one of those do you think it's had the most impact on right now?
Well, there's so many uses for it, right? And you have predictive AI versus generative AI and different means that it could be leveraged. I think probably from a generative AI standpoint, probably super useful in communications. I have a good friend of mine, really passionate person, but had some learning challenges growing up, some learning disabilities, and really struggled with conveying himself. Once you talk to him, amazing. And hearing the vision that he had and the things that he wanted to do, everyone wants to go support this guy. At an interview, struggled. But with AI, he's been able to craft some really great messages. He's been able to make himself comfortable by putting his word track into AI and then having it coach him. And those are just practical use cases.
Yeah.
I think probably in the communication standpoint, it's helped us a lot. And there's so many other things that we're going to discover as new models come out, as more people use it, so we understand the ways that we can use it for work more effectively. That'll be really impactful.
And I did want to just ask, on the same note of AI, and mainly because you're such an expert on it, I'd rather have somebody whose opinion is informed rather than anything else. But I know a lot of people, obviously, like I said before, are distrustful of AI, and it's probably going to take some time until it becomes kind of normal, But do you think that as AI gets better, it's going to make it harder? Or do you think it'll make it more difficult for the general public to maybe trust large-scale institutions, like organizations or even the government, because of how useful and how great AI has become and evolved?
Well, I think when we pair people with AI effectively, it's going to force us all to be better. A lot of people that are concerned about AI are worried about being replaced. And I would argue that you might be replaced, but you're not going to be replaced by AI. You're going to be replaced by someone who's using AI, because they're demonstrating that growth mindset versus the fixed mindset, right? And there's a lot of leadership books out there around the power of mindset, power of habit, all of these kind of things that really drive like trying to learn throughout your life and develop yourself and grow. And often learners tend to be more open-minded. So understanding, how you can leverage it in the future helps break down some of those fears. But I get it. It's something brand new. And for people that, maybe trained for 10 years to do editing, man, that's kind of scary that now I can throw something in an engine and it can edit it for me pretty quickly. That doesn't mean you don't have a job anymore. That just means you need to learn how to effectively use those engines. So now you can bring your client base times 10, because now you can do it in 1/10 of the time that it took you to do before. We'll find use cases that make sense, and we'll find use cases that don't make sense. And as we go and get more established in those ones that make sense, we're going to be able to do so much more, which is why it's really exciting for nonprofits, because we can go subscribe to a tool, create a tool, do whatever we need to do to amplify our reach, to get more answers. And instead of having to go call somebody or send an email, they can ask a bot really quick what the right answer is for how to set up this food distribution, or what the guidelines for our program are for who qualifies for this program. And very quickly, you can have those answers right in front of you.
Yeah.
I'll get you where you need to go.
Makes sense. Yeah. I think I think that my, where that inspiration for that question came from for me specifically is because I don't know if you've seen it, but there's this video of like back in 2021 that I remember went kind of viral, of Will Smith eating spaghetti made with AI, and it looked absolutely weird and crazy. And then they remade that same video, I don't know, maybe like this year or last year, and it's still not like perfect, but man, the improvements are just substantial, like the physics of it all. And I think that's kind of where I see a lot of people talking about, like, man, like this is going to replace directors at some point or things like that. And I think that's kind of where like a lot of the hesitation comes from. Okay. But you're saying that it should be used as an extension of your imagination, another tool used in your creativity.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. No, I can see that for sure. It's kind of like, when printing press came out, I think a lot of people back then had hesitations to want to use it. A lot of the scribes didn't want to, but
yeah. And think about how many people that weren't good at writing, but they were really methodical, and they were really good at putting blocks in a sheet, but they weren't good at drawing, squiggly calligraphy lines. Things like that. You're gonna see Pete's best agent was able to go and get commitments, get meetings, because he had an AI friend behind the scenes to help craft those introductions for him.
No, absolutely. No, that's awesome. No, it's cool to get your thoughts on it. And it is exciting. It's an exciting time to be alive, but I think with anything so big and so on the horizon, you see it coming and it's already kind of there, but you don't know how much more of it is actually coming. And it's like, I think that's what kind of makes people hesitation. And it is exciting, but I've used it before too, and helped me with some copy, because I'm just like, I remember the first time I was like, let me try it out, let me see what this is about. And I was like, man, that's actually pretty good. I'm gonna use that. And I think now it's just a matter of like, how are you going to use it? You should use it because everybody else is, and if you don't, you're going to be left behind. You can't be left behind.
This is going to make it's so exciting to discuss, because again, there's so much potential. What we're seeing in the military and the public sector, private sector, nonprofit space. There's so many different applications of it, and it's nascent, right? It's like 2 or 3 years old for general public consumption. And as people are getting more and more aware of it, I mean, Grok just rolled a $4 update today that they're saying is smarter than PhDs
Mhm.
in every field. And just seeing how quickly, the last version was rolled like a few months ago.
Yep.
We're quickly adapting and growing human knowledge. I think it's amazing. I remember having to go look back in an Encyclopedia Britannica to go look in a dictionary or an encyclopedia and go find the volume to look for information.
Mhm.
I had to go to the library, and if the book was checked out, I was out of luck. And now it's just go ask a question. I think we're going to see a lot of, instead of search engines, we're going to see answer engines that are going to be, here's the question I have, and instead of getting a list of places to go find the answer, you're just going to get the answer with the supporting resources down at the bottom if you want to go read about it.
No, I know we're talking about a lot about AI, but I feel like it's such an interesting topic to kind of go on and to have somebody on our board that kind of has their foot in the door with it already. I thought it would be kind of cool to kind of, pick your brain on a little bit. Last question about AI, I promise. And this is one that I thought, are there any, do you have any recommendations of skills to use with AI now that you feel are going to like really take off in the future?
So a lot of understanding how to write prompts is important, but even then, that's kind of already getting passed up a little bit. It's going from prompt writing to like engineering how to work with agents. So you have individual AIs that will answer basic questions or help you write emails, but now you have agents, agentic AI that will actually go do things on your behalf. So things like, instead of, hey, help me rewrite this email, now it's I need help managing my schedule. And so you have true AI virtual assistants that are managing your day, that are helping you book your meetings. They're helping you be more effective. They're keeping you accountable. Pretty soon you'll see AI telling you, hey, no, this doesn't align with what your vision was for the day. Why don't we go ahead and close social media and let's open up Kindle instead?
Yeah.
There's going to be different use cases there that are really going to become impactful with what we do. I think I'm seeing a lot of tutoring for my students that are learning some complex topics around economics and finance and things like that, or even abstract marketing ideas around, marketing to an emerging different set of consumers. I think what we'll see most is people have to become comfortable with AI in their personal lives first before they become comfortable in business, but businesses also have to become comfortable with it. Because I think the companies that are really metering and controlling their employees' access to AI are going to start to get lapped by those that are encouraging it. You got to be careful. There's a lot of concerns around private data getting shared and leaked and things like that. And those are very, valid concerns. But I think the more we become comfortable with it, and that often starts with our personal lives, the more we'll be comfortable using it in other spaces. And pretty soon we'll be able to do a lot more than we're doing today.
No, well said. And then I guess just to kind of bring it back full circle, I don't know if you have, but have you seen any kind of AI implemented in your time in the reserves recently, or do you know of any like way AI might be used within our military now?
Yeah, so the government's always exploring new use cases, and I don't know that I can speak on behalf of the DoD for what they're doing. But I know that there's lots of use cases that I'm sure we're exploring that'll make sense, both from predictive AI, understanding how to explore trends and what's happening, and then also generative AI, understanding how we can create new things and new content. There was recently a new Army Reserve division that was created, a detachment rather, that was created called, I think, Detachment 201, and it was a bunch of Silicon Valley leaders.
Wow.
That are lieutenant colonels, I think is how they were commissioned immediately, that are solving problems for the military. There's a public release on it somewhere, I think on one of the Army Reserve websites. But that's just an example, I think, of how the leaders at the top and then leaders at the squad level or individual service members are looking at how they can use AI to make the world better.
Awesome. Yeah, no, very exciting times, very crazy things. I mean, I feel like we're literally living in the future. When you thought of the future back when I was like a kid, like in 2007, 2006, I'm like, that's going to be futuristic stuff. And like now we're kind of
we were watching the Flintstones and the Jetsons at the same time, trying to understand what the future was going to look like.
Yeah, exactly. So we will have robot maids at some point, like the Jetsons. That'd be kind of cool. But yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all the questions I had. Do you have any kind of closing thoughts, or maybe any message to anybody maybe considering joining the reserves or joining the military?
Yeah, so for people that are interested in joining the military, I say the best time is now. The importance is being willing to serve, and service is different for everybody. Some people may not be able to go serve in the area that they imagine they wanted to. When I first enlisted, I got sent home because I had to go get a doctor's note, and I had my girlfriend at the time, now wife, and my family that were all there. They'd driven 6 hours to see me get sworn in, and I didn't get to swear in that day because we had to figure out some medical paperwork from an old football injury. But the idea is being willing to serve, and that willingness serves is in a lot of different ways, whether that's serving through Soldiers Angels as a volunteer, whether that's you have control of a little bit of the checkbook for your company, and you want to donate or encourage your employees to donate their time and energy to Soldiers Angels, or you want to go put on a uniform yourself. I encourage people, understand your why, understand why you're doing what you want to do, and then know that just the desire to serve something bigger than yourself is admirable enough as it is.
Beautiful message, beautifully said. Dr. Kyle Brooks, thank you so much for joining me. I really do appreciate you taking the time out just to answer my quick questions and go down the rabbit holes with me. I'm sure a lot of people are wondering the same thing. So thank you for your time. And again, thank you for your service.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And everybody watching at home, thank you again for tuning in. And again, may no soldier go unloved.